Wow, sounds quite impressive when you read it off like that, Lindy. But thank you for inviting me and thank you for allowing this opportunity. I think you're all doing what is a very difficult thing, and that's the journey of entrepreneurship, because you kind of suffer through it and it's difficult. And once you start working with a good action coach, you suffer a little bit more because now there's all these new expectations and you start to learn things about your business and about yourself that in the beginning you don't really like. But as you go through it, it gets easier and you get to master what is a relatively simple thing, entrepreneurship. It's not always easy, but it's relatively simple. But that's only the first step. Your business is, Lindy mentioned it, your chosen vehicle to serve you. And the first trick is to turn it around that it actually does that. And it should then deliver both cash flow and time flow, a surplus of both. Because then you can really live a truly inspired life like you want to. So who in the room has got a great-grandmother that left them a really good, solid, high-performing property or share portfolio, so much so that you work for passion and not really for money? Anybody? Okay, why are we laughing? Oh, that wasn't a joke. Nobody. Okay, so then the topic is relevant. Generational wealth. Because if you look at true wealth is generational, especially the first and the second generation. Normally the third generation, they stuff it up a little bit because somebody worked hard to develop it. Their kids knew that they worked hard, so they were a little bit frugal with the money. The spoiled brat grandkids just grew up in lavish luxury. And unless they manage it properly, you could lose generational wealth at the third generation. The trick, though, is if you manage it properly at third generation, it will probably last forever. And in an environment like we are in South Africa today, the reality is that your children and your grandchildren will probably never get a job. And as tough as that sounds, that's the truth. They might get a crappy job, which is good for experience and a whole lot of other things, but the days are gone of building a career and working hard and having a great pension and living happily ever after. In fact, the whole thing of pension funds is a joke. So if you go study where pension funds came from, it's another thing we've got the Germans to thank, because at the end of the 1800s, they thought, well, let's put this thing together to make money. Institutional financial institutions created retirement age. Up until like the 1890s, there was no such thing as retirement age. And they thought kind of 60 would be a good benchmark, because at that stage, people weren't living to reach mid-55. 52, 53 was the kind of life expectancy. So the Germans thought if we pay out pensions at 60, Bob's your uncle. What a great model. People will pay and pay and pay, and we'll never have to pay out. And then we went through the First World War, and the Americans thought, geez, the Germans are onto something. But let's move it from 60 to initially 63 and then 65, because at that stage, life expectancy was getting to like 56, 57, and they thought, give us a buffer, and we'll still never have to pay out. And once the Americans took pension funds on board, everybody jumped on the bandwagon and thus created retirement age. It never existed before the pension funds thought they'd make money out of you. But you would die before you'd ever claim. Brilliant model for them. Today, obviously, life expectancy exceeds retirement age, returns have died, and therefore all pension funds around the world are bankrupt. And it's because it was never designed for what it's being utilized. Then we take it to where we start businesses. And for who of you, your biggest asset outside of your home, if you own your home, is your business? Raise your hands. Okay, for most of you. Sadly, for most of you, that asset is worth nothing, as you've discovered through the coaching, because your business isn't saleable, because you're the business. And I've been going through the process of trying to find a business for my folks so that they can move down to the Cape and run the business. My dad's almost 70. He's been retrenched 7 times in the last 23 years. He has got no real financial independence, so there's definitely no generational wealth for me. But looking at businesses and trying to buy businesses, I've said to a few of the owners, and they get quite the murrin with me, because I said, actually, you should pay me to take your business. I'll take the lease, I'll take the staff, I'll take the headaches, I'll take all the losses, and just give me the business and I'll give you R1. No, business is worth all this money. No, it's not. So the sad thing is we think our house is our biggest asset. A house is not an investment. People say it is, and in South Africa we've got this terrible, terrible mindset of, I don't want to pay off somebody else's bond. So we'll get back to that just now. The second thing is we think our business is its biggest asset, and guess what? It's not, because most businesses don't last 10, 15, 20 years. So before you get to the time that you want to retire, you probably won't have your business anymore. Well, then how the hell are we going to look after ourselves when we're old, let alone create a fund and a system of wealth to look after our kids, our grandkids, and hopefully one day great-great-grandkids will have a beautiful painting of you above the fireplace and go, thank you, Granddad, thank you, Granny, so glad that you listened to Harry and did something and made some money. Okay, so we're going to talk about wealth and building wealth. So why should we build wealth? You know, we're still struggling to just get this business thing right. Why the hell should you build wealth? To leave a legacy? Yeah, we all want to suffer through 50 years of life so the next generation can have it easy. Yeah, it's amazing how we do that as parents. Every generation does it, but yes, so we can leave a legacy. Why else?
We also need to look after ourselves.
We need to look after ourselves first, yeah? After 60?
You can survive comfortably while you're working, but you want to actually have enough to live after you stop working.
Exactly. Yeah? Yes?
I say so that you can do what you've always wanted to do here and now, rather than waiting for it.
So it should hopefully give you some freedom and some money to do things that you'd actually want to do. So you don't have to suffer till you're 70 and think that, oh, I'll do that when I retire, and then you die of cancer at 50. Because sadly, that's the reality. You know, we did this exercise at our conference that Lindy was talking about, and I've done that exercise 3 times, where you cross out a matrix of blocks that there's 80 blocks on the page. Now, average life expectancy in South Africa is not 80, but in the first world it is 80. So if you've gone over the halfway mark, like I did last year, my kids keep track, so it's actually 41 now. I've been 18 forever, so they tell me how old I am. But once you get past that halfway mark of crossing out how many blocks you've done versus how many you've got left, and there's a few of you in the room that have got very little left, you realize that that's quite a finite time frame that we're here for. But many people we know, because we do this exercise of understanding how many people do you know that have cancer, how many people do you know that have died of cancer, how many of those people got to 80? And for me, I know more than 10 people that have died of cancer, not one got anywhere close to 80. So if you're thinking you're going to live your whole life waiting for that one day, it ain't never going to happen. So that's why you need to start now. So we're going to do some exercises, you're going to work out some numbers, you're going to be terribly depressed the first half an hour. There are no sharp objects on the table, so do not try and do this. It's not a great idea. But it is to shock you into the reality of how crap your situation really is. Because unless you know and accept that, you won't do anything about it. And then we'll show you what to do about it thereafter. So we won't leave you depressed. We'll give you hope. We'll give you hope. We'll talk a little bit about debt. Anybody in the room got a lot of debt, either personal or in their business? Don't be shy. Raise your hand, keep them up. Be proud of the debt. Debt is not a bad thing. It can be crippling, but it's not a bad thing. Okay, a couple of you. So we will talk a little bit about debt, how to get rid of it. And we're going to talk about the emotion a little bit of money. Because what you hear clever people say around what you should do with wealth, what you should do with your money, are all lies. Damned lies. Because human beings don't work according to logic. You don't look at a house and go, oh, I want to buy a new house. I think I could get at least a 9.5% net return on this property. And in fact, the area will grow by X and therefore I'll buy the house. No, you walk into the house and you go, this is a shithole, I don't want to live here. Or, geez, I love it. So it's emotional. You don't get into a new car when you want to buy a car and go, what's the fuel consumption? How much money can I save on petrol? Can I get a decent rate on my insurance? Is it a non-hijack related vehicle? No, you go, I love this vehicle. So we run life according to emotion, and you need to manage your money the same, because if you try and do it logically, it's not going to work. So the first thing I want you to do is write down on a piece of paper what your current net asset value is. If you don't know what it is, best you start figuring out what it is. But that's effectively everything you own less everything you owe. Do not include a value for your business, because like I said, most of your businesses are worth nothing anyway. So All your assets. If you've got any investments, if you've got any money saved for pension, if you've got any shares, your home or properties that you own, all your assets, less anything you owe, gives you what's left. And that's your net asset value. So write down that number on a piece of paper.
In your personal capacity, I suppose.
Yeah, in your personal capacity. This is personal.
Everything you own,
Because your business isn't going to create generational wealth, you are. So
everything you own is what you own.
all your assets, there's all your liabilities, excluding any value you place on your business, and you have a number. Some of you don't have to write very many digits on that number.
Is a home an asset?
You can put your home in there for now. Yeah, you can put your home in because it is a property. It's not a good asset, but it is an asset. So you can add your home into that. If it has got a minus on the number, put the minus in because there's some of us that have a negative net asset value. If you're a little bit ashamed, you can kind of, shield what your number is from your neighbors. Okay, so you've got that number. The next number I want you to write down is what are your current monthly expenses. Now, some of you, again, are using 5 or 10 grand every month out of the credit card to live. So what you're paying yourself is not necessary enough. So that's why, what are your current monthly expenses? What does it cost you to live? Now, you might be short on that amount every month, but that's the business's problem. That's what, personal. So once you've paid your house and your kids' school fees and your telephone and had a glass of wine and whatever you need to do, paid your insurance, paid your credit card, paid your interest, whatever, what is your monthly expenses that you need to live? Okay, so you've got 2 numbers written down on your piece of paper. So the first thing you do, some of you won't need a calculator for this because it's not a complicated number. Some might need a calculator. Is you divide your net asset value, the number you got there, by your monthly expenses. So if you had a net asset value of R1,000,000 and you need 50 grand to live every month, your answer will be 20. So whatever the net asset value amount was divided by your monthly expenses, and write down the one figure, the answer of that. Some of you need to practice using a calculator. It is on your phone. As a business person, you need to know how to at least work a calculator. It's an important skill. So you've got a number. That number says if you stop earning money tomorrow, that's how many months you can live off your total asset value. So if your income dries up tomorrow, that's how many months you got left. Assisted suicide is not legal in South Africa just yet, but I know some of you are considering it quite strongly now. Because that's months. That's not years. That's the amount of months you can live off your whole life's work. So some of you are a little bit smug in the room going, "Phew, it's not that bad." I'm a little bit surprised. Others are going, and we can say little bits of swear words here, hey? Like cock, this number is cock. So you're not feeling so good. So that's how many months you can live on your whole life's work. So for some of you, that life hasn't been that long, and that's okay. For some of you, that life's been a hell of a lot longer, and it's not so okay. Now we're going to do another number. Your monthly passive income. So how much money do you earn every month off rental of a property that's paid off interest on investments, on dividends of your share portfolio? Yes, it maybe pays out annually. You can work it out to a monthly amount. So how much money do you get in every month passively that you don't have to work for at all? Comes in through your current investments or assets. Okay, write down that number. If it's naught, that's okay. There's lots of people that has it as naught. Not a problem. And if you've got that number, then you do the same exercise as the first one. You take that total, what is your current monthly passive income, divided by your monthly expenses, and that's how many months you can live off your passive income. If it's a 0, well, then you can't live for 1 month. If it's 1 and above, at least your monthly passive income is more than your monthly expenses. So you could stop working tomorrow, your business could close down, you could have a stroke, you could do whatever, and you could still live. Anybody got that figure is more than a 1? So your monthly passive income is more than your monthly expenses. Good, so nobody can then go drink some wine now. You still need to pay attention for the rest of the day. Okay, so you've worked out how many months you can live on all your assets, your whole life's work, and you realize that if this business doesn't work, we're up the creek without a paddle. Because we need to still earn money. Now, we all think that we've got unending amount of time. We're going to live forever, we have lots of time to fix this, but things kind of happen. And, often they're medical related. So you have a stroke, or you get cancer, or you get hit by a bus, or whatever, and then you can't work. And that in itself is a problem. The other thing we do worse than that is we say we've got lots of time to one day start saving. So who's ever had that? Oh no, I'll get to that. I just have to make a little bit more money and then I'll start saving more. Okay, a couple of people. Let's try that again. Anybody breathing in the room? Show of hands. Okay, so we've all been there. We all know that we need to put more money aside, but yeah, it's just difficult to already pay these things. So what do we do to fix the problem? If we haven't got enough money today to just pay what we need to pay, how do we start saving? How do we pay off the debt that we have? Where do we start? Any ideas? In your business? Cut your expenses? Cut your personal expenses? Don't be a consumer. That's something, sadly, we only learn later in life. When we're younger, we like to consume and spend more money than we make. And then we realize, oh, that's not a great life skill. Let's change that a little bit. What else can we do? The back there?
I just got an interesting app, which is called the Stash app.
Stash app. Yeah.
Where you put in, I don't know, 10, 20 rand a day or every second day or whatever.
So we're going to get to what we call tips. That's a good tip. Because it's the same like F&B savings pocket. How that works is, that app just does all the banks. Every time you buy something, you can choose how much it rounds up to put money aside. So whether you wanted to round up to the nearest rand, the nearest 5 rand, the nearest 10 rand, so every time you swipe your card to buy something at Spar, it'll round up whatever you've chosen and stash it in a little savings account. Into a little account, yeah, into a savings account. FNB have it as one of their products, some of the other banks don't, but then literally every time you're using your card, you're at least putting something aside. And then you look at that and go, well, what's 5 rand going to make a difference? But that's the problem. Because we're wanting to do big amounts of saving and investment, we never get to saving 100 rand. Okay, so that's part of the challenge. But then we've also got this thing called debt, and it gets complicated. So first and foremost, you have to build a bigger business. Because the next thing that's going to be quite depressing is write down what you think your market-related salary is. So if you got rid of this terrible job that you have as business owner, and you went back into the employment market, what do you think you could earn? With your skills, with your experience, both in your past life as well as your business, you went and got a job where somebody else took the stress, they took the pain, you could just pitch and do work. What would you earn as a salary? Write down that number. Some of you are thinking, geez, I'm not worth much because I can't even come up with a number. Yeah? I'm unemployable, so nobody actually wants me.
Is that people can actually find it?
Yeah, no, we're presuming you can find a job. What your current salary is that you're paying yourself. And I'm not talking about, when there's money, I take a little bit, and if there's not so much in the till, I take a little bit less. What are you consistently taking out the business from a salary perspective every month, routinely? You might have to take it out twice because you've got debtors paying late or whatever, but every month, what are you consistently taking out? If you take out 100,000 Rand 1 month and nothing for 6 months, well, then it's not 100,000 Rand, is it? What are you taking out on average every month? And now compare the two numbers. Why do you have a business? Okay. So some people are going, geez, this is a crap idea. Look at this. Anybody else got a nice relationship here or a bad relationship? Anybody got currently paying themselves more than they could get somewhere else in the marketplace? Keep your hands up. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Give those people a round of applause. The rest of you need to identify those 5 people, so just put your hands up again. So everybody, look around the room. And best at tea time, and especially this afternoon when there's wine flowing and people are a little bit more honest, ask them what their secret is. Okay. The rest of you, exactly what you said is, why the hell are you in business? Now, sadly, 74%, we don't have the stats for South Africa, 74% of Americans are exactly the same position. 74% of entrepreneurs could earn more working for somebody else than they do for themselves. There's no point then, is there? Because it is quite stressful to be the entrepreneur. You pay all the other people what they're worth before you even get money. So some of you need to build a much bigger business to just at least pay yourself what you're worth. But that's only one part of business. Why would you be in business if you're not getting a return on your investment? So what are some of the numbers that you paid for your business? If you bought a business or you started it or whatever the case may be, how much did you pay for that business to get going? Anybody want to share?
10,000 Rand.
10,000, you started with 10,000. Great. Anybody else? You all got your business for free? 140. Okay, 140? 250?
Over time, I put in 2.5 million.
Over time, 2.5 million? Good. So we've all paid something for the business. Even if we started with literally nothing, it kind of consumed and we expanded and we grew. So would you take that money and walk down to Investec and say, Investec, I'd like to give you some money to invest, but don't worry, don't pay me anything back, just keep it. In fact, don't even tell me it's still there, don't send me a statement. When I need it, when I'm old and grey, I'll come back and see if you've still got it. And if you don't have it, it's not a problem. I don't really need the money anyway. Anybody going to go do that with Investec? But that's what you do with your business. Because you've paid money for it. You consistently put time and effort and more money into it, but you don't expect anything back. You don't check on what it's worth. You don't make sure it's still worth something. You don't pay yourself dividends. You don't pay yourself profits. You don't grow the value of it. You do nothing. So you don't pay yourself what it's worth, and you give money to the bank to not pay you anything back. So some of you have to change the way you run your business, because both of these are important. If you work in the business, you have to get this, because you could go work for somebody else. You could be a hobo, you could sit on the beach, you could do lots of other things. If you are working at your business, you deserve to get a salary, like anybody else does in your business. But second to that, you're also a shareholder. It's your business. And if you have shares in something or an investment or a holding, you want a return. So you need this one and this one. Some of you have just recommitted to about 3 years worth of coaching because you've realized your budget needs to triple. This little 10% growth crap that everybody focuses on every year ain't going to cut it, is it? Because it ain't going to give you what you're worth, and it definitely ain't going to return any money on your business. And how do you know what this amount is? Well, for all of you, it will be very different. For yours, at least on 2.5 million, you want to get a return. So if you gave a bank 2.5 million, they give you 8% like that. You'll probably get closer to 10. Well, there you know that you should be focusing a minimum of 250,000 Rand return after you've been paid a salary just on your 2.5 million. But now you're taking the risk. You're having to put in more the effort. If you gave the money to the bank, they give you 8 or 10% for doing nothing. Now you have to actually drive it. The risk is much higher. So then surely you want more than that. The other great exercise to do is, what do you think your business is worth? Or what do you want it to be worth? So if I had a briefcase of money and said, I'm going to buy your business now, sell it to me. How much would you want for it? JJ, how much would you want for your business? I've got the cash. Not fake 100 or 200 rand notes, 50 rands and 20 rands and 10 rands.
We're obviously together, so we would like at least between 2 and 2.5.
At least 2.5. So big difference between 2 and 2.5. So if you say to a buyer, oh, 2.5, he's thinking, oh, cool, I can get it for 1.6. Okay? So that's why clarity is important. Because somebody wanting to buy a business is coming in for a deal, he's going, oh, they don't even show 2.5. I'm definitely not paying 2.5. I'm going under 2. So, okay, but let's say 2. So you think your business is worth X. That's a good place to start and say, what it must return. So again, minimum on 2 million, it must return 200,000 a year. So that's an extra, let's call it 15 a month, net profit. Plus I'm taking all the risk and all the rest of it, so I actually want more than that. So for most of you, you shouldn't get out of bed for under 20% return, because you're taking the risk. Because if you put it in a good fund manager, an Alan Gray or a Coronation or something like that, over a long period, you could probably get 17, 18, 19, 20% quite comfortably. So your return expectation for your business should be a minimum of 20%. If you're in a service-related business, where your margins tend to be higher, you should be looking closer to a third. A third for overheads, a third for staff and royal salaries and stuff like that. The production cost is obviously in a service-related business, often the staff, and a third for profit. Those are some benchmarks to work towards. So, service-related business, you should be targeting a third, but bare minimum for everything else and a service-related business, 20%. Because otherwise, sell your business and give it to somebody else to manage, and they'll give you that. And then you can go earn more working for somebody else than you are for yourself. So these are some benchmarks that before you do anything from a goal setting for next year, these numbers go into the system. I need to pay myself what I'm worth. I need to make that return on investment. And then I add all the other expenses and stuff like that to then determine what my income is. Not take the crappy performance of this year and go, well, let's be conservative and budget for 8% increase. Because then you don't get this. So you start with this. It's your business. This is where you start. And then you build the budgets on top of that. So we spoke a little bit about debt. So how do you pay off debt? Where do you start? If you've got a lot of debt and you must pay it off, how are you going to pay it off? Where are you going to start? What does the logic say? Small ones? The ones with the highest interest?
Consolidation of debt can sometimes work if you've got a good access point.
Consolidation of debt?
The bond breaks less.
The theory is yes. The theory is you'll start with the highest interest. Because why would you pay off something that's costing you 10% in interest when you're paying 24% interest? You pay 24%. That's the theory, the logic. The theory of the logic will also say consolidation of debt is a great idea. Because you're crippled with where you are, and that's sadly the problem with most debt rescues, debt counseling, business rescue. They take all your debt and they consolidate it. The problem is, what do? They consolidate short-term debt over a very long period. So logically, it's great because it brings down your payment. It might mean that you can actually survive, so sometimes it's flippin' necessary. But the reality is you've got some debt there that's 2 and 3 years worth of repayment period that you're now extending on an access bond over 20 years. Now you're going to kakamatal. Big time. So you've solved the short-term problem and created the long-term nightmare. So the logic with how you pay it off doesn't work. Because I don't want to get out of bed in the morning and work to the bone to pay off a debt that's going to take 20 years. Because you mean I have to do this and stuff, I have to do this for 20 years? I want to have a little bit of excitement. I want to have a bit of a sense of accomplishment. So before you save, or before you pay off any debt, you first have a little stash fund. And in that fund, you put kind of 10 to 15,000 rand. Savings. It doesn't have to be a very high returning investment, you know, derivatives on the stock exchange because high risk, high reward. No, no, no. I don't even expect too much interest on this. It could be a 1, 2, 3% little savings account. Because if there's an emergency, and this is all this is, it's an emergency fund. I need new tires for my car. Well, my car's tires are more than that, so it wouldn't work for me, but you know, I can go pay for new tires. There's all of a sudden, the geyser breaks at home, and I need to pay the excess. Yeah, I can take it out of that fund. So I'm comfortable as a human being that I've got some form of backup. All the people I owe money, they can wait. Because I won't be able to pay them and pay for the geyser. And I need to fix the geyser. I need to service the car. The kids do go on tours, or whatever the case may be. So you at least feel comfortable you've got an emergency fund. The next step is you take your debt and you rank it lowest amount of debt to the highest. So I owe 200 Rand on Fashinis, and I owe 1,000 Rand on my Dion's card, and I owe my overdraft, and then my credit card, and then my car, and then my house. So you start with the lowest amount of debt, and then you rank it to the biggest amount of debt. And all your attention goes on paying off the first one, the small one, no matter how small it is. Now, most of you do not have the discipline to keep that account open. You just don't. In a perfect world, you will. But how many times, who's got a credit card in the room? Okay? Keep your hand up if you've had the target of paying it off and then just use it again. Okay, so everybody's got a credit card. So I have this credit card, I want to pay it off, and as soon as I pay it off, I think, woohoo, party time, let's put something on the credit card. So it's a never-ending, that's what we call a cock goal, because you're never going to pay it off. And you don't have the discipline to say, oh, I've got 50,000 Rand available, and I'm not going to use it. Oh, shit. You suffer through life. The first opportunity you have for a little bit of that instant gratification, you're going to go, oh, yes, I'm styling. Dear Claire, you must be careful what you tell me, because I don't often remember your name, but I remember everything you tell me. And that will be used against you. So Claire had this nonsense of paying off a credit card. And I said, great, what happened the last time you paid off the credit card? She said, oh, I booked a trip on budget account and ran it up again. That's what we do. So don't set that. Because once you pay off the little one, unless you know you've got the discipline, you close that account. Even if it's your Fashini's account or your Ed's account, you close the account. Because we've got a little bit of stash fund there. If I really need a dress for that party, I could take it out of my emergency fund, but ish, I can actually go in last year's dress. But if I really must, then I'll take it out of there. That's fine. Then you just build it back up again. So you close off the smallest one. So even if this was 100 Rand, now you take whatever the second biggest debt is, and you take whatever you need to pay on that one, plus this surplus 100 Rand. And you pay off the second one. And once you've paid off the second smallest debt, again, because most of you don't have the discipline, you close the account. How are you now feeling once you've done that? Much better. Because we don't think as human beings in, well, here I owe 100 Rand, here I owe 1 million. We just look at it and go, I owe 20 people lots of money. Now I only owe 18 people lots of money. So I feel better. I feel like I'm making progress. I feel like all the work and suffering and pain I'm putting into it is working. And then I take whatever I was paying on the third one, plus 100 Rand of the first one, plus maybe the second one was 250 Rand, and slowly but surely that snowballs. You do not pay off your house just yet. You pay for all the small, loose little things. For those of you that are car crazy, you do not pay off your car either. Because what do we do when we pay off our car? Buy a new one. So don't pay off your car. What do you do when you pay off your house? You sell it. Yeah, maybe. What else do you do? Renovate it. Extend the bond. Yeah. She mentioned it just now. We've got an access bond. So we pay off the house and we go, I never really liked this kitchen. I think it's time for it to go. Oh, access bond. Lekker. So now I've got a new kitchen that I'm paying off for 20 years. Really genius. So you don't pay off your car and your house just yet because you will use the money. And you won't go, if you're driving a 1600 Hyundai, replace it with a 1600 Hyundai. We don't do that. Geez, I've suffered through paying off all this debt. Woohoo! They're going to give me 72 months and 40% residual. Bob's your uncle. I'm someone going to a V8 5-litre car. Let's screw the petrol price and make some money. That's what you do. So don't try and do it because that's the emotion. So before you pay off those two, you need to develop some disciplines. In the perfect world, you pay off your debt till this level here, and then you build a personal fund of 6 months worth of personal expenses that you put away, not in the 1, 2, 3% interest here, at least into a money market, maybe a 32-day notice, something with a better interest rate, so you still have access to it. It's not locked away forever. But now I know no matter what happens in my life, I can sustain myself for 6 months. No matter what happens in the business, I've all of a sudden got a great opportunity to expand the business, buy another one, do something interesting. I don't have to take money out the business if necessary for 6 months, and I can harness that potential opportunity that I have in front of me. Once you've done that in your personal capacity first, you then build up 3 months worth of expenses in your business. Because now I'm not worried about how I'm going to pay wages at the end of the month. I can pay wages. I'm not worried about how I'm going to pay rent. I'm not worried about taking on a new office because, geez, it's a little bit of a stretch because I have backup. If all you had was a car to pay and a house to pay, and you had 6 months worth of personal expenses in an account and 3 months worth of business expenses in an account, how are you now feeling? Secure. A whole lot better than Bob Mugabe's feeling at the moment. Yeah. Great little joke that went around the other day off the point with old Bob when he was now ousted. And a little boy was asked, what's the capital of Zimbabwe? Or where is the capital of Zimbabwe? That's what he was asked. And a Swiss bank account. Yeah. Okay, so now we're feeling much better. Now we've got the opportunity to take on great opportunities and things that come our way instead of stressing because I can't even pay the 100 Rand on that account yet. Now we can look at saying, okay, how do we pay off these, invest in other things, etc., etc. But first and foremost, we can't even do this unless we pay ourselves a market-related salary and we start driving return on investment. And the nice thing is we can do these at the same time. They don't have to wait for the one and then to do the other. So who of you have phone banking on an app, internet banking on your phone, on an app or whatever? Okay? Who of you have a savings account to put money into? Link to that app. Great. So take out your phones. Take out your phones. Open your banking app. Everybody open your banking app. This is not a drill. This is a real exercise. Okay? I shall do the same. Nothing in this business if not congruent. Some of you are really hiding now the minuses on your app. Yeah? Okay, so you log in. Yeah, you're personal. No. We're not raping the business for more money now. Come on. You got your app opened? Okay? You now go to transfer. And you transfer out of your savings or your current account wherever you've got no money at the moment. And you transfer into that savings and investment account that you have. 1,000 rand. If you do not have 1,000 rand currently available, or you only have 1,000 rand and debit orders are pending, you then transfer 100 rand. And if you can't transfer 100 rand, please come speak to me afterwards. We'll have to have some stern words. So let me just, and you put as a reference Lindy or Herman Growth Club. Okay? So out of your current account, or wherever your money is, mine's called a flexi fixed deposit. There's my 1,000 rand. Okay? Once you've done it, and it's vibrated or it's been successful, you just show your teammates at your table. But don't not do it. So ideally 1,000 rand. If you can't do 1,000, do 100. And now once you've finished, stand if you've done at least 100 rand. If you've transferred at least 100 rand, please stand. And stay standing. If you've transferred more, that's a bargain, but at least 100 rand. The rest of you haven't got 100 rand, or this is a bit daunting. So for those of you that have just transferred at least 100 rand, was that very difficult? Did you have the mechanism to do it anyway? So why didn't you do it yesterday or last week? And you have just started generational wealth. Because the topic was generational wealth starts today. And you've just started that. So well done. Have a seat. Here's the thing about money. We often know what to do, we just don't do it. And I did this exercise in Nelspruit the other day when I was there, and a woman said, oh, you know, one of her big disappointments is she wanted to save more money this year, and she hasn't got round to doing it. And I said, how much money have you saved? And she said, nothing. I said, that's okay, take out your phone. And we did this exercise, 100 rand. And she eventually, she took out the phone, oh, yeah, that's clever. I said, no, do it now. Oh, yeah, I'll do it just now. I said, no, the rest of us are going to wait until you've done it. And she transferred the 100 rand, and previously in that account was 0. So credit to her, she at least had a savings account linked to her account. She'd never transferred any money into it, and it was as difficult as transferring 100 rand. And you could see that sigh of relief, that glow in the eyes going, oh, wow, that's so cool. So I said, why have you never done the 100 rand? She says, because my target is I want to save 10,000 a month. I said, so if you wait for reaching that target, you would have missed how many 100 rand opportunities? And that's where generational wealth starts. It starts with the little steps. Because money becomes a game. We like to see things grow. As human beings, the whole universe works like that. If something's not growing, it's dying. If the tree outside there grows to a point and can't grow any further, it will not be there for much longer. So money becomes a game. The more we start to see, oh, I'm paying off a little bit of debt. Oh, I'm saving a little bit of debt. Oh, I've got 10,000 rand in an emergency savings account. I can now make a little bit more. So what are some of the bare minimums? So now you know what to do in your business from a goals perspective. You need to pay yourself a market-related salary. You need to make a lot more return on investment for your business. And then you're going to slowly start paying off your debt, having the emergency fund, and building towards 6 months personal expenses in an account and 3 months worth of business. But what are the absolute bare minimums that you should be taking advantage of that you're probably not? Any ideas on what they may be? From an investing, from a wealth, from a savings perspective, what are the bare minimums that you should be doing that you might not be doing? That you know you should be doing, or that you've heard other people doing, but you're not doing? 10% of your income? So yeah, in a perfect world, we'll say 10% of income. Best little book you can ever read. It's from 1913, I think. Richest Man in Babylon. Brilliant little book. Talks about paying yourself first, and ideally 10%. And just that feeling of, even if it's 100 rand, this month, before I paid any other buggers that don't have any of my stress in this business, I paid myself something, Makes you feel good. So pay yourself first, get to 10% of your savings, that'll be great. 10% sadly won't be enough eventually, but it's a good start. But there's some basics, the absolute minimum that you need to be doing. That'll be to your advantage. Any other ideas of what that may be? Anybody heard of a tax-free investment? So what is a tax-free investment? Who has their annual allocation that you're allowed by SARS in a tax-free investment account as we speak? Just put your hands up and keep them up. Okay? For the rest of you, this started last year. Finance minister at that stage, we still had a reasonable one, stood up and said, the government is going to give you 30,000 Rand a year, tax-free, no tax payable on that investment. So in 2017 financial year, you could put 30,000 Rand into an account, a tax-free account, so this is a specific account, and you don't pay any tax on that until the collective notion of that amount reaches 500,000 Rand. So until you've got 500,000 Rand in the account, you can put that amount every year and you'll never pay tax on it. For every human being in South Africa. So you could do that for yourself, you could do that for your spouse, you could do it for every one of your kids if you've got surplus money, and they won't pay any tax. This year, for the 2018 financial year, they moved that to 33,000. So now you can already have 63,000 Rand for the last 2 years in an account, tax-free. You cannot go back a year. So if you missed last year, you can't go back and put in last year's amount. That's all you can put in every year. The nice thing is, you can do that in various different ways. So a lot of them are just a normal fixed deposit for 12 months, and you can put in a lump sum. All the financial institutions have one. All the insurance companies have it, that you could do it as part of a monthly debit order. It can be unit trust based. You could do it through Satrix, based on the JSE, where you put money in and it goes into shares. So it's different avenues of where that money is invested. But all the revenue out of that, the interest on that, you'd pay nothing. Up until now, 530,000. I think it's 530. So SARS is giving that to you, mahala free, no problem. And you don't have to put in the 33. So if you only had 500 Rand a month to put aside, 6,000 Rand a year, you can sign a debit order, 500 Rand a month, and put it in there. The irony is the interest rates on those accounts are better than a standard fixed deposit in most cases. The two best ones are Investec and Nedbank, interest rate-wise, that last when I checked. So you get more in an Investec tax-free investment for 12 months than you will in their standard 12-month fixed deposit. Makes no sense, but it doesn't have to make sense. It's my money, and they pay me more, so I like it. Okay? Nedbank's rates are also pretty good. The other banks are not necessarily as great. That was my last research. Obviously, that things change as they become more competitive. But it's a minimum, because you don't have to pay tax on that. So you start with doing that. The nice thing is if you've done it and you've got the surplus cash, put it in your spouse's name. If you've got surplus cash again, start putting in your kid's name, because every entity has the ability to have that as a minimum. And next year they'll probably push the 33 again and stuff like that. So tax-free investment is an absolute must. And I know the speaker that you're going to have later is going to talk about, some risk and wealth vehicles of what you can do and where you can put your money. Okay, a couple of people, some people not. So I plan to retire at 120 and die at 125. So at least have 5 years of a bit of life. But this is a very big objective for most people, and it's something that's probably neglected big time. With a retirement annuity, up to 27.5% of your monthly income can go into retirement annuity tax-free. That's right, huh? So for most of you, 10% is a stretch. So 27.5% is like for other people, not for me. But that's okay. Up to a maximum of 27.5% of your monthly income can go into into a retirement annuity tax-free. And then they are better fund managers and money managers than you, so they will actually pay you interest on that money. So they will give you a return, whilst you're not giving yourself a return. They'll give you a return. So an absolute no-brainer to at least start with that. Now, the other thing to do, and this is a very sensitive subject for a lot of entrepreneurs, is you need to do this for your staff. Because in a corporate environment, you're forced into some form of retirement funding, pension plan, or whatever the case may be. So you have that as part of working there. So by default, you save automatically. When they work for you, they're doing exactly what you're doing. Is môre is nog 'n dag. I'll get to it someday. So if you look at the calendar of the week, it's got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's no someday in that week. But we all think someday is a day. Doesn't ever come around. So once you get, at least start with yourself. Don't do this for your staff if you're not doing it for yourself. Please, your business, you first. Then you put the oxygen mask on your staff and say, you have to have most of the managed kind of pension funds. You must have a minimum of 5 staff. Some of you I know don't have 5 staff members. Then you just do a straight retirement annuity as part of your company. You contribute a portion if you want, or you just force them to contribute. Tough luck. And they start having forced saving as part of working for you. It's a little bit of a value add, might buy a little bit of loyalty, and if nothing else, you've set them at least on a good footing for their future. Less than 13% of Americans can retire on 40% of their salary when they leave. And I'll show you the importance of this with a little calculation we'll do separately. So these are bare minimums. The first place to start. Most people want to get into property and shares and all the complicated stuff that you don't understand. If you're not doing this yet, don't even bother. Because on that stuff, you pay costs, you pay interest, you pay tax. Here's you don't. So you don't try and jump 3 levels up of sophistication on investments if you don't have the basics in play. Most of you are just trying to get life sorted and business sorted. You're not going to be wealth experts anytime soon. Partly because you're not doing any reading or learning, and partly because you don't have any time. So maybe you'll get there, and that's fine, then you get there. And you don't let an expert, even though I'm maybe shooting you in a bit in the foot for your session afterwards, you don't let an expert take your money anywhere until you've got the basics in place. Because that's often what we do. Oh, I've got nothing. Somebody comes and does an analysis and we go, okay, you do it. No, you have at least the basics self-managed. You build the confidence. It becomes a bit of a game. You get good at actually tracking, is my net asset value increasing? Where can I get better interest rates? Because once you start doing that for yourself, you'll then hold whoever the professional is that you get to help you accountable. And say, listen, where is my quarterly statement of returns? Why is my returns down? Why are the costs so high? You won't ask that of the expert if you haven't managed it yourself. And that's often the problem when you just willy-nilly give it to anybody else to manage. Okay? So you need to empower yourself at least a little bit. Now, who has loyalty programs? eBucks, Clicks cards, Discovery Vitality, etc., etc. During this holiday season, you go get all that information of all the ones you belong to, and you become good at understanding what the hell they mean. For Vitality alone, last year, I saved 38,000 Rand by just being a Discovery Medical Aid member. So people look at me and they say, oh no, Discovery, the service is terrible. Never had a problem with service. Oh yeah, but they're quite expensive. Well, no, because my medical is 8,000 Rand a month, and they're giving me back over 3,000 Rand a month on average, through a variety of different things. So I've been a diamond member of Vitality for the last 4 years, and I was gold for the 2 before. So you need to be 3 years gold in a row, and you become diamond. So I saved last year 1,900 Rand on movie tickets alone. Because the kids don't pay to go to the movies before 7 in the evening. And we used to pay like 35 Rand. It's gone up to a big 40 Rand or something now. Woo! Car hire, flights, etc., etc. If you have a Discovery card, now not everybody has a Discovery card. You might have a Standard Bank U-Counts. You might have ABSA rewards. They give you cash back. So once you get good at saving, you start taking the cash back and saying, well, I spent the money anyway. Let me put it into savings. So I buy printer cartridges. It's the most pain in the ass purchase I make. Because when I go buy ink cartridges for our printer, and we've got 3 printers that we have to sustain, but the one alone, it's like 4,000 Rand. It drives me up the wall. But I always pay with my personal Discovery card, and I always buy at Incredible Connection because I get 20% cash back. So the business pays 4,000 Rand a shot for ink cartridges, and they're kind enough to give me back 800 Rand in my personal capacity that goes into my savings account. Wonderful. SARS is paying for that 4,000 Rand anyway, and I'm getting 800 Rand back to put in my account. Clicks. I only buy consumables, and it's better, I suppose, for a man than for a woman, twice a year. On weekends when they do double points, and I've got a Discovery card, so I get quadruple points, and on that weekend they have buy 3 for 2 special. So if I buy 1,500, 1,800 Rands worth of stuff at Clicks, it costs me like 600 Rand. Because between the points of Clicks and the cash back I get on the Discovery card, I pay less than 40% for that. So my wife thinks I'm very funny because there's 4 or 5 shaving creams, there's 4 or 5 deodorants, there's 4 or 5 shampoos, and I only go twice a year. So now I save on petrol, I save on the frustration of the shops, I save on the parking fees, or at least the parking attendance money, and I pay like 40% of what I'm buying. You have to get good at knowing where these advantages are. Because you can only save your expenses to a point. And for most of you, you've looked at it and gone, it's already a struggle. But you can get all these other value adds that will be significant. We were privileged enough to take the whole family to the UK in June, July. I booked the tickets end of last year through Emirates. Myself and the whole family, as 5 of us, flew Cape Town. Yeah, we flew direct from Cape Town. Cape Town, Dubai, London, and back for 7,000 Rand each. In June, July, peak holiday season for the UK. Because we booked it in advance and we got the discounts. So understand what those value adds for you and change your buying patterns, where you buy, where you shop, what you pay with, how you pay, so that you get those advantages. Because that just boosts your savings significantly. You save money and you're able to add to your investments. Okay, so we heard about the Stash app. That's very neat. So Stash app. It's a bit of a cheat. So either your bank or through the Stash, you can round up on a purchase. Easy way of making more money. At our global conference in Canada in August, one of our UK coaches said, every time you have a beer, a glass of wine, or a cup of coffee that you buy somewhere, buy a share. Now, it's not that easy because sometimes you have to have a share account and you have to have at least 100 shares sometimes, and there are not that many cheap shares around. But the principle is right. So every time you buy a glass of wine, a beer, a cappuccino, what if you took the same amount of money and just put it in a savings account? So don't stop drinking, because sometimes you need to drink, business is tough. But at least take the same amount of money and put it aside to say, well, I'm spoiling myself with this glass of wine. What's 20 Rand, 30 Rand, 40 Rand to just put into the savings account quickly? While you're waiting for them to pour, just go 40 Rand. For some of you, you're going to have like a bottle and a half at a time. So you're going to put 100, 200, 300 Rand in at a time. And you're not going to notice it, especially after a bottle. You go, oh, this is fun. Yes, your bank manager is going to phone tomorrow morning and say, what the hell were you doing yesterday? You saved all this money, and now you're in overdraft. Okay, so manage that. But Stash fund, let's call it sin purchases. Every time you make one, put some money in the savings account. Because you don't notice that. It's small and insignificant, but it adds up. Technique that I learned from John DeMartini. I know Lindy shared it with some of you already. It's called the fast savings technique. Forced, accelerated savings technique. So it doesn't matter where you start, 100 Rand. You put 100 Rand into an account. by debit order, or if you've got the discipline to pay over, that's fine, but most of you don't. So a structured transfer every month, 100 Rand. For the first month, the second month, the third month, and then you go up 10% for the next quarter. So every quarter, forced, because it's on debit order, accelerated, another 10% savings technique. When you get to, so that will be month 4, 5, and 6, month 7, another 10%. And you just keep doing that until you'll see it kind of mushrooms. Because you don't feel that 10%, especially not for the first probably 5 or 6 years if you're starting off a small base. It then gets a bit scary because you've got the compound effect. Because money has little money babies, and little money babies grow, and it's like your babies that you ever had as kids. They start off small, and then eventually they just devour everything, and they're this big. That's what happens to your money too, but it starts small. You need to plant money babies. The other app that's brilliant it was a business that was bought out by Old Mutual, started as with a bunch of techies, as apps often do, and it's a personal, it's better for personal management app. They have better security than most of the banks, and you link literally everything you have into that app. You can put any savings and investment you've got from any account, your bank accounts, through to your Clicks Club card points, your Pick and Pay Smart Shopper points, everything you have that you log in online, you enter into this app and it keeps track of that. And it can update every hour, it can update every day, it can update once a week, and it tells you, sometimes depressingly so, what your net asset value is, how much money you've got versus how much you've lost, what you're spending on average on what. Because I know most of you are terrible at managing a budget. You're very good at managing the till at work, because if there's more money in the till, there's more money for you. But you're not so good at managing where the money goes. So it will say things to you like, you've spent 4,161 Rand and 7 cents on petrol in the last month, and if you save that by 10% and invested it in an account with 5% interest, you can have so many tens of thousands of rands in 5 years. And you go, shit, I ain't going to the shop just for one thing ever again. It says to you, on average, people in your income bracket pay so much for telecoms expenses. Save on average so much of their salary. And you go, oh, I'm good at saving. Oh, sure, maybe this number's a bit the wrong way around. What's going on here? Yeah, people in my kind of bracket are saving more than me. So it's benchmarking. And it does live updates of your money so it can keep track in one place where everything is. If you're going to kick the bucket, lock that password for the 22/7 away so that only when you die does your spouse or your family get access to it. Because then in one snapshot, they also know where everything is on a summary. You don't give it to them before then because they might get rid of you. You know? So, yeah, exactly. Or they might have a little bit more appreciation for you and help you fund all these things. The other thing to do, just as a life skill, is who taught you about money? And for most of us, nobody. Not at school, not our parents, not our friends. Nobody taught you about money. So the biggest injustice you can do is to pass that ignorance onto your children, or for some of you it's too late, onto your grandchildren. You need to teach children about money. You need to teach them about economics. Because if you're now getting your act together and starting to save towards generational wealth, you want to leave it to a generation that's actually going to grow that and not spend that. So my children know that they've got a lot of money in a bank account. And they always want to say, oh no, I want to buy this. And I say, have you got money? Yes, in my bank account. Sorry, did you put money in that bank account? No, but you did, Dad. I said, yes, my money. Your name, my money. If you put money into the account, then you're welcome to take it out. If you don't put money into the account, you don't get anything. You have a list of chores to do. If you do your chores, you get pocket money. My 15-year-old still only gets 100 Rand pocket money. He makes 1,200 Rand a month by walking people's dogs in the estate. He never needs any money. Dad, can you take me to the movies? I said, no, bugger you. You went to the movies last week. He says, I said, I haven't got money for you to the movies. He says, I didn't ask you for money. I just asked for a lift. I like that. I like that. Brad Sugar's the founder of Action Coach, who we bring out to South Africa next year, October. At our conference in August, he said, the best thing to do if you have a child is on their first birthday, buy them a house. Well, that sounds a bit extreme. You know, most of us are thinking like little plastic stacking cups or something. You know? He says, buy them a house. Find a way to pay the deposit. Because that's all you have to do. Put the tenant in. On their 21st birthday, you give them the title deed to a property that's paid off. And you wouldn't have had to pay it off. Because by the time that tipping point comes, where the rent actually exceeds what you're paying for the property and the bond, you can get back your deposit. So you don't leave them with that money either. Some more, you've given them a title deed. But you give them a title deed. Some of you are going, oh, that would be a good idea. Too late now. Maybe I should do that for my grandkids. And some of you in the room are going, well, maybe my grandkids. But, you know, can you imagine if that happened? That when you were 21, somebody gave you a property. No matter how small, 2-bedroom little flat or whatever, and said, yeah, you can live in it, you can rent it out, you can leverage off it to borrow money on to fund your business, your education, whatever there it is. Small little step, doesn't seem that hard. A little bit harder in Cape Town at the moment with the property prices and the deposit you have to pay. But it could be doable if you had a bit of time to prepare. So the last thing for next year, as a bare minimum, you know that you must pay yourself market-related salary, you must get a return on investment. These are the minimum things that need to go into your plan. An absolute minimum of 15% increase in turnover. I don't care what your business is. I don't care what you're planning for next year. If you come to Lindy and Herman and you have a projected growth of under 15%, they have my full permission to clap you over the head. If you don't like to be clapped over the head, make sure that you have at least 15%. Because there's no business on the planet that can't make 15% more. No business on the planet. It's a little bit of focus. You can put up your prices, which most of you are overdue to do anyway, and you can get half of that anyway. But that's 10% above inflation, which if you're not doing that on the top line as a minimum, you're going to have a problem. A minimum of 10% saved on your expenses. An absolute minimum. So go look at all your expenses, renegotiate your insurance rates, re-look at your cell phone and telecom costs. They do have cheaper packages out there. Yeah? I've already made the decision, much to my children's dismay, I'm not upgrading to the new iPhone. We've got 14, 15, 16 Apple devices, whatever it is in the house, and every time I upgrade, it goes to the next child, and then that child gets it to the next child, and so we've got that cycle, and I'm just breaking that cycle. Because the same software is on my iPhone 4 that my 8-year-old has as it is on my iPhone 7. But I pay 500-600 Rand every month towards the device. Stupid. So minimum 10% saving. Go to your staff and say, listen, if you don't pull your socks up, I'm going to cut your salary by 10%. Not so easy to do, but the threat alone is a good one. Because they might either leave for the rubbish ones that we said we don't want around anyway anymore, or they might up their game. So minimum 15% up on turnover, minimum 10% saving on expense. The double whammy of the top line and the bottom line impact is going to give you some profit at least left over. And then what we said before, a market-related salary, if not at least in January, when? And if not, at least all of the money, some of the money. Nobody says you can't pay yourself 1,000 Rand or 2,000 Rand more every month. So if you're now taking out 10 or 100, doesn't matter, well, can I take out 12 next month? And ultimately get to maybe 30 what I'm worth. Or take out 102 and ultimately get to 150 what there's different amounts for different people. So you don't have to pay yourself the whole amount on the first month. Because if you wait to have the money to pay yourself what you're worth, again, time will just disappear. So start clawing up that market-related salary to get to that at least by the end of the year, but preferably before. And then have budgeted profit in your business for a bare minimum of what the bank's going to give you. Like I said, you should be doing 20%, service-related business 33%, but you might not be there yet, and that's okay. So then at least do 10% for the first year. If you've never had it before, that might be a stretch. That means you might have to relook at these numbers. This one might need to go up significantly more, but these are bare minimum benchmarks to put in as the foundation. Once you've got that right, yeah, then Bob's your uncle. You can do all sorts of other creative stuff on top of that. So minimum 10%, moving to 20 or 33 depending on your business. Does that seem difficult? It's not hard. It's actually pretty easy. But it does require time. So how many of you have a wealth hour in the week? One person. Two people. What do you do in your wealth hour? Learn?
I do a bit of learning, but I literally sit and I compare everything, check out the growth, check and analyze it.
Okay.
Previous month.
So the nice thing is this is going to help you a little bit to make that easier. But put in your diary, once a week ideally, if you can't do it in the beginning once a week, maybe once every second week, a wealth hour. That's the time that I can look and see, what do I actually have that should be making me money and isn't? Where can I investigate interest rates to see what they should be? Where can I find a good broker to help me invest my money? I want to buy a property, but I never get around to actually looking at one. Set up the appointments with a real estate agent. Most of them are useless, so don't try anybody. But Lindy will give you some good recommendations. There's one in Somerset West that's the only and best agent I've ever met. The rest are all terrible. But then go see properties in that hour. Commit to 1 hour a week on building your wealth. Whatever that may be. You choose what you do with the hour, but if it's diarized, do it the same time every week. It might be early morning, it might be late afternoon or evening, it might be during the day. It doesn't matter where you put it from the beginning. Have the wealth hour. Because if you dedicate the time, the rest will come. If you're not sure on something, use her example and study a little bit. Learn, watch a video, read something, ask for advice. But if you have that discipline of just 1 hour a week, you'll start to get there. Start tracking your net asset growth. What is it today? Go actually work it out. If I take all my assets minus my liabilities, what have I got? Don't have to do it every month because it doesn't change that significantly every month. Track it every quarter. So what is my balance sheet every quarter? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? I've taken on more debt, but I've actually got more assets, so my net asset has grown. I'm happy. I'm comfortable. I've done an investment. It's not doing so well. A little bit nervous. So I have to watch that and manage that. Because you've got the time and the focus and the dedication. And the nice thing is, then business becomes purposeful. Because it's not just to pay the bills. There's some things to get out of it for me. Because it's my business. I want something for me. What you do with your wealth, I could care less. Give it to the SPCA when you die. Give it to your kids. The nice thing, two quotes that came out of a movie that I love. The one is, make sure that you leave your kids enough money to do something, but not to do nothing. Great philosophy in life. They must appreciate money. You want to give them a start, but don't leave them, if they used to do nothing, 100 million rand so that they can go blow it all. Protect it, put it somewhere else, so that it will be generational. Enough money to do something, but not to do nothing. And the other one, and this was a personal lesson for me recently too, I love the quote. George Clooney was the actor in the movie. I don't know what the movie was. He said, parents all do this, but be careful. You work so hard on giving the next generation, your kids or your grandkids, everything you didn't have, that you forget to give them everything you did have. And I think that's a real problem with human beings. Because we're so focused on making it better for other people, but there was a lot of good that went into us that we don't pay forward. We learn a lot of lessons through coaching in business that we don't teach our kids. We've learned something about finance that we don't pass on to the next generation. So when my wife and I and my teenage son, we left the little ones at home, and we went and did, well, not at home on their own, but at home, and we went and did the Otter Trail. And we left at 10 to 3 the one morning, because we needed to make the Blokrands River crossing by 7:30 at low tide. So we walk in the dark, and the moon set at probably about 4-ish. And Tristan, my 15-year-old, was at the back the whole time, and I kept saying to him, "What the hell are you doing?" "No, but look at these amazing stars." It's like, dude, we need to make this crossing. We haven't got time to do stargazing here. And then we'd walk a bit, and then I'd see the torch just disappear, and I'd turn around, and yeah, he's looking at it. It's like, geez, teenager, focus, 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 focus. What are you doing? He says, "But look at all these stars." And I looked at the stars, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not that impressive. I've seen much better than this. And eventually I said to him, "Listen, stop now with the stars." I said, "Yes, they're beautiful. Yes, they're pretty. Yes, we're not in the Cape Town anymore, so you can see them a bit better. But it's really not that impressive." He says, "Well, maybe not for you, but I've never seen them like this. So it is impressive for me." And I thought, on top of all the other things, yes, privileged to spend 3.5 weeks in the UK with them all this year, doing bucket list items like you can't believe, he hasn't seen the stars in all their glory. So what you do with your life, your money, your wealth, I don't care. You will do it to the best of your abilities. And as long as you're instilling a sense of purpose for the next generation, I know you will do good. But it starts with you. You're not paying yourself enough. You're not getting a return on your money. You're not having urgency around the important things for the future. And I'm going through that personal struggle, let's call it now, with my parents, where they feel like failures. Almost 70, they've sold a house they've lived in for 40 years. They got 900,000 Rand for it because they live in Welkom in the Free State, which is the best that they could get. And with the odd little annuity here, which is at best a couple of hundred Rand each, that's the extent of their wealth. And we as kids are now looking for a property down here, which with 900,000 Rand, you get nothing. They don't want charity. I'm looking to buy them a business with people that want money for the business that's worth nothing, so they can at least have the dignity of earning their own money. And it's a challenge. And they're looking at this and going, "We failed in life." And I'm going, no. If I look at my life, and I look at my sister and my brothers that live internationally, they've done a pretty good job. But they did the pretty good job for us, not for themselves. And that helps nothing. Because then the next generation's wealth is eroded because of decisions you made today. And as Lindy said, it's not the bad decisions that catch us. It's the fact that we don't make decisions. I've never seen a business fail because of a bad decision. Yes, there's things that they could have done differently and maybe should have, and there's lessons, but it's not the bad decisions that close down businesses. It's not the bad decisions that lose money on investment. It's no decision. We saw that it was a bad investment, but we didn't make the decision to get out. We saw it was too good to be true, but we didn't ask the questions, and we went into it blindly. It's not the bad decisions, it's the lack of decisions. So today, clean the sheet. Put this first into your business plans. And make the decision to say, from today, I'm starting, for some of you already have with your 100 Rand minimum investment, generational wealth. And generation starts with the first generation to then pass on to the next. Any questions or comments or anybody feeling wildly excited about making a commitment? Yes. So, I'll chat to Lindy and to Herman and see if we can make a deal. I committed to do it this year and I haven't done it. And I'm going now into a session with my team in the next hour and a half in prep for our planning on Friday. And I've committed to next year do one talk a month at a school, alternating between what is a privileged school and an underprivileged school, different months. I'll make a donation to their library every month with some good books on these basic principles of business and money. And we'll do that as my pay it forward for them. And I'll chat to Lindy and to Herman and see, maybe we run a session for families. And you can bring your kids, you can bring your friends. We'll obviously need a bit of a bigger room. And we might incorporate things like dream charts and goals and money. And we can gladly look at something like that. Because, I didn't have the privilege of learning these things as a kid. I had to learn them myself. And I've still got a long way to go. But if we don't pass it forward, we're going to be stuck where we are forever. And it's only getting harder and stuff like that. So, great one. We can do that. Anybody else got a question or a comment? Yes?
I've asked everybody to stay away from Black Friday.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. So you heard about consumerism. Stay away from consumerism. But in my family, they know we do not buy anything unless it's a deal. If there's no deal, there's no purchase. It's as simple as that. So I need to buy a bicycle for my teenage son because I thought I bought him a decent bicycle and it's actually just a piece of rubbish. So now he's riding my bicycle the whole time. So for Christmas, we're going to buy him a bicycle. Black Friday sale, it's off 45%. So that's the bicycle he gets. He doesn't have a different choice of color or a different bicycle. That's the one on special. That's the one you get. Finished. So if it was a purchase that you were going to do anyway, and there is a deal to be had, shop till you drop on Friday. Not on your credit card, preferably. Not out of your emergency fund on unnecessary stuff. But yeah, if there's a deal to be had. If you're just browsing or looking for more stuff, then don't even open your phone or your email the next 3 days. Because between, when was I in Durban? Monday night. Today's Tuesday. Monday night, I cleared my personal email account, which is separate from my business account. And when I opened up this morning, there was 110 emails. 60 odd of them were Black Friday specials. So yeah, stay away. But nothing wrong with the deal. So my daughter came in the other morning, just as a practical thing around teaching kids. And she said, Dad, I really need new shoes, new tackies. Because they're saving water at school, so they don't go in their school uniform, so they wear their tackies. Tackies are still all right, but the little bugger has been fed, so she's grown and her feet are too big. So I said, come here, let me see. And her toes are actually not this much away from the end, it's this much over the end. So I said, Hayley, you know the deal. We only buy shoes 3rd of January at Sportsman's Warehouse, because the 3rd of January every year, they start their yellow ticket sale, and that's when we buy tackies. I said, so you got a problem? She says, but my shoes are too small. I said, well, it's a week and a half of school that's left. About 2 weeks, it was last week, so about 2 weeks of school that's left. I said, and then you're going to be in slops. And are your slops fine? Oh, no, my slops are fine. I said, there we go. So you'll be wearing slops until the 3rd of January, and then we'll go buy tackies. And then she is now almost at the size where she can wear her mother's shoes. So she scrummaged through the cupboard and she found her mother's shoes and said, Mom, can I wear this? And she said, sure. So she made a plan. She will not get shoes until the 3rd of January. Because I ain't buy, and then I can buy decent shoes. Because I went through that habit. I used to be, save myself into poverty and used to buy Mr. Price shoes. And then 3 months later, the shoes are stuffed. Now I can buy Adidas shoes or Nike shoes for less than half the price once a year, and then most of the time last more than a year, which is fine. Then I'll do that. The deal is simple. With my son, he made first team hockey. He's a really good goalkeeper. He wanted new boots for hockey because now we play on the Astro. I said, so use your tackies. Oh, no. He doesn't want to use tackies. He wants the fancy shoes. I said, great. I don't spend more than 400 Rand on a pair of shoes, even for myself, so that's the budget. He said, but they're 1,200 Rand. I said, so best you wait for a special and pay the rest, which is exactly what he did. So when those shoes were 800 Rand, he paid the 400, I paid the 400, he got the shoes. Fair deal. Yeah. For me. They don't think so initially. But you have to, and this is the trick with staff and with kids. You have to develop a thick skin. You have to have the ability to say no repeatedly. And you have to be willing to take the time to explain. And for most of us, that's where the problem lies. We don't have the patience. We don't want to put in the time. We don't want to explain why. We just give in and just say, oh, just take it, buy it. I was going to say a very ugly word. Bugger off and just leave me alone and stop nagging. And then we give in. But if you explain, it's not a problem. So off the point, last story. Hayley, my daughter, was 4 years old. Went to the shop. She wanted to buy something, and she didn't have her money. Because even from small, even if they got 20 Rand, they got money. So they know that the thing. Where's your money? No, don't have the money. So I bought it for her. Went home. I got to the kitchen. I said, go fetch your wallet. She went to fetch your wallet. She came back. She gave me the 20 Rand. I took the 20 Rand, put it in my pocket. She stood here like this. I said, what now? Where's my change? I said, there's no change. I gave you 20 Rand. And It cost 20 rand. So you've given me the 20 rand. It's a brown money. So there's no change. Snort and Trana, I took all her money. But I only had the one money and you took all the money. So that day, in my family, the Reserve Bank died. When Haley was 4. A couple of months later, we at ShopRite, in fact it was Checkers, not ShopRite, and she was buying something, she had a wallet, she took the money out, she was 5 rand short. So the lady says to me, sir, she's 5 rand short. I said, there's your customer. You must tell her. What now? You need to give another money. So she's looking at all, she says, but I don't have any more money. So I said, well, that's a problem. No, but can you give it to me and I'll pay you later? I said, no, remember the Reserve Bank died. The lady behind the counter was the mooring with me because I made them cancel the transaction for 5 rand. But she knows that there's no money in your wallet and your wallet must be at the point of purchase. No purchase. Now they go to the shops and say, oh, I'd really like this. And I say, great. Did you bring your money? Must I buy it with my own money? Yes. Oh, no, then I don't want it. Or they say, oh, I want this. And I say, did you bring your wallet? No, I haven't got my wallet. But you can buy it. I said, no, you know, the Reserve Bank died. No, but I'll pay you back. No, the Reserve Bank died. You don't have your wallet there, you can't get the money. My teenage son got clever and he said, oh, I want Dr. Dre earphones. Now, I used to think, how could you pay 4,000 rand for a pair of earphones? Until one day I went into the shop and the agent was trying to sell me the stuff. And I said, guys, you cannot tell me that a pair of earphones for 500 rand or 1,000 rand or 4,000 rand, it gets that much better. He said, do you want a bet, sir? I said, cool, I had some time. And he put on the cheap, the better, and then the 4,000. It is significantly better. Luckily, I had a bit of self-discipline. Otherwise, I was ready to buy a pair. So I don't tell my son that, but he wants a pair of these 4,000 rand earphones. There's like 4 months worth of salary for him on his business. I said, you're man your head. It's not warranted. No, but he wants that. Can I pay for it and then you pay me back? I said, no. Remember, Reserve Bank died. Yeah, but it's only 4 months. I said, so you're going to give me all your money every month to pay that off? Okay, can we make it maybe 6 or 7 months? I said, no deal. Then he comes back and he says, okay, I can buy it for him at the Apple store and pay it off monthly. I said, no, then I'm taking the risk and I'm taking the debt. No chance. So then he goes away. A couple of days later, he comes back. He says, Dad, I've found the solution. I'm going to finance it at Apple. I have an Apple store account and you can finance it there. I said, that's fantastic. Well done. So he's always thinking of coming up with new plans. So I take the time. I said, great. I said, just quickly bring me your ID book and your payslip. He says, what do you mean? He says, I don't have an ID book. I've got a passport. I said, okay, that'll help. He says, can I use my passport? I said, yes, you can. I said, does it say that you are 18? No. I said, well, problem number 1. Where's your payslip then for the second thing? He says, I don't have a payslip. I said, okay, a collection of invoices that you give your clients, that you can prove income. No, I just walk the dogs and they give me the money. I said, oh, Houston, we have a problem. First of all, you may not contract under 18, so they will not give it to you. And second of all, even if you did, you have no proof of income. So you can't finance it. Sorry for that. Save the money like any human being is supposed to, and then buy it if you really want. But I have to take the time every time he comes back with something new to do that. He now knows that we don't waste money. We were looking for him in the mall the other day. Since he was a baby, he just disappears. We don't worry, he eventually comes back. And he's gone for like half an hour in Somerset Mall. Eventually comes walking along with a big longboard, skateboard like this. I said, and now? He says, no, I've been working hard. I thought I'd spoil myself. I said, oh, okay. I said, what does that thing cost? Because even if it's their money, they ain't going to waste it under my roof. He says, no, don't worry, Dad, it was on his deal. I said, what was the deal? He says, 35% off. He says, I've been looking at it for months. And every time I go into the shop, I think, 2,500 rand for skateboards is a bit much. I said, damn right, it's too much. He says, but it's my money. I said, you know the rule. He says, yeah, but it's now 35% off. I said, fantastic. No problem. So you have to take the time to teach him that.
Did your son ever buy those earphones?
No, because he must now do it himself. And, he's He's now got probably 4,000 Rand, but he now knows he won't take the only 4,000 Rand he's got and do that. And that's the important thing about understanding stuff. I'm not saying you mustn't have stuff. Number one on my dream chart is still to buy a Ferrari. I've had that since I was 16. When I was 16, a new one was 520,000 Rand. I spoke to Fred, the salesman. He treated me as if I was a perfect customer and I was a snot-cop little teenager on a normal old Telkom phone from home in Welkom, phoning the dealership in Joburg. And he told me the whole story, and I said, one day I will buy this Ferrari. That has now increased to 6.2 million. So inflation has played a bit of havoc with my plans there. But I will never take the last 6.2 million Rand I have and buy that. If I had 20, 30, 40 million Rand, yeah, sure, then I'll do it with a smile. Other people wouldn't. They're going, 6 million Rand for a car, you mad in your head. Till you've driven one, yeah, then we have a different discussion. But now I do things like Claire's supercar experience. I drive the supercars anyway. It cost me 5, 6, 7,000 Rand. So I still do life. I can still do spoil. Last year for my 40th, I bought myself a BMW GS motorbike that I've been saying I'm going to buy for a long time. And people don't listen. So my wife said, oh yeah, sure, overheard dead body, never buying bike, blah, blah, blah. So I went to the bike show with the intention of buying a helmet. They didn't have my size, so I came back with gloves. She says, why are you buying motorbike gloves? You don't even have a motorbike. I said, I'm buying one for my birthday. It's my 40th, to Harry from Harry. The best present you get. You must always buy yourself a decent birthday present. That's why you need to have decent money. So to Harry from Harry, best present. A couple of weeks later, I went somewhere with my little 8-year-old, and we went to the bike shop, and I came back with a helmet. And she said, why did you buy a helmet? You haven't got a motorbike. I said, I told you I'm buying one for my birthday. And last year when we went to Hungary for the Grand Prix, I hadn't told her that I'd bought the motorbike. I signed the papers literally before I went to the airplane. And she said, listen, I said I'd help you with stuff, and today you ran off. Where did you go? I said, no, I just needed to go sign some documents. For what? I said, no, just something. So eventually I was under pressure, being threatened with my life. I said, no, I bought myself a motorbike. You did what? I said, yes, and we land on the 29th of July, back from Hungary, and waiting for me will be my motorbike. Oh, so she just crapped in her pants. I said, but, excuse me, I bought the gloves 8 months ago. I bought the helmet like 6.5 months ago. I said, I've been telling you. Yeah, but I didn't think you were being serious. So there it is. The security, because we were in the air when they dropped it off, the security wanted to turn away the BMW dealership that were there to deliver it, because they said they don't know about anything. They then went to the house and spoke to my mother-in-law, who was looking after the kids, and said, listen, we've got this motorbike that we need to deliver. She says, I don't know anything about it. And eventually she said, but I do know Harry, and he does stupid things like this, so let him come in and have a cup of tea, we'll see. And when we eventually landed, there was missed calls and all sorts of things. So you can still live, but don't do it at the expense of your wealth. Okay.